as mentioned, today I want to kind of talk a little bit about the work that we've been doing in Haiti for the last 4 or 5 years, specifically focused on how children learn and develop and how we support that learning and development in context of emergencies. And I want to connect it to something that Bo led us off with at the start of the day, where he presented these questions about what if, right? What if play and children's development was a focus of the home? What if play and children's development was a focus of the school and the community center and the hospital? And that's a question that our team is trying to answer. What if we do that? And what if we do that all simultaneously at the same time and in a humanitarian emergency? We don't have the answer. That's the short and long of it. But I'd like you to first start and just turn to the person next to you, or maybe in a group of three, and tell each other one thing that you know about Haiti, the country of Haiti in the Caribbean. One thing that you know about Haiti, one thing that you've read about Haiti in the news. And if you don't know anything about Haiti, that's fine as well. But I'd like you to just turn to your partner and tell them one thing or one impression that you have of the country of Haiti. Go ahead. If you can hear me, clap once. If you can hear me, clap once. If you can hear me, clap twice. If you can hear me, clap once, then stop and clap twice. Good try. Okay, so I'm going to move on, and we're going to come back to that in a second. And so I want to start by saying that the work that I'm presenting today is on behalf of a really large team of researchers and practitioners based in the United States and based in Haiti. I'm presenting on behalf of this entire team. This is just a small group of the team that are based at the University of Notre Dame, at Catholic Relief Services in Haiti, at the Commission for Episcopal Education or Catholic Education in Haiti, and several other partners that are part of this consortium, as well as several donors that have been part of the consortium. And I think how many of you, when you shared something about Haiti, shared something about the adversity in Haiti right now? All right. So Haiti has been going through a political and civil crisis for a really, really long time. In 2015, the Congress or Parliament was dissolved, and that led to a simmering political crisis that has led to the assassination of the president, Jovenel Moïse, in 2021. At the same time, gangs have pretty much taken over a lot of Port-au-Prince, and that gang violence has radiated and spread to many, many different departments across the country. How many of you talked about the earthquake in 2010 or natural disasters in Haiti? Right, so Haiti also experiences a lot of natural disasters and earthquakes and floods and hurricanes. There have been two major earthquakes, one in 2010, one in 2021, and almost seasonal yearly hurricanes. And about 95% of the population are not ready to kind of deal with natural disasters. How many of you talked about the state of child development in Haiti? One, two, perfect. Yeah, so because of all of these political crises and the natural disasters, there's a fairly high level of post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, anxiety reported for children in Haiti, with 2 out of every three children reporting some level of physical violence, corporal punishment, mostly from teachers and parents. And we would say about 1 of every 3 children is developmentally off track. How many of you in sharing with your partner, talked about the resilience of the communities in Haiti? Yes, one person. So even though there's all of this adversity, that's always where we start. There is deep resilience within the communities in Haiti, right? There are still systems that are present in Haiti that are working and serving children. And that's where I really, really want to start. I'm always kind of forced to start with kind of making the case for the humanitarian adversity in Haiti, the humanitarian case in Haiti. But really, I want to start with there is strong resilience and systems in Haiti that we can leverage to better support children's learning and development. For example, the Ministry of Education is in charge of about 11 to 14% of education services in the country. Just about 11% of primary schools, 14% of preschools are run by the Ministry of Education. The Catholic education system is at 25%, right? So when we're thinking about which systems within which to work in Haiti and how we best support children's development, we might need to think of alternative systems. And that's where our team starts. We've worked with the Catholic parish system for about 6 years now to identify the main settings. We call them the L3, lakay-lekol-legliz, the home, the school, the church, where children learn and develop with their peers and with others on a regular basis. And so our work has been, how do we think about the main interventions that we can have across these three different settings to support children's learning and development? And we take a very kind of Bronfen-Brenner perspective of the ecological systems theory, right? So we see children at the center, and across them we have the L3, right? We have lakay-lekol-legliz, we have the home, the school, and the church or the parish system in that microsystem. And then around that, we look at the mesosystem. And that's what's interesting to us, is what is the relationship between parents and teachers? What's the relationship between teachers and the parish leader? What's the relationship between the parish leader and the parent? And how do we make sure that they're all getting the same message and giving each other the same message about children's learning, development, and the use of play in that process? And as Kathy presented earlier today, we use the nurturing care framework for most of our work for children between 0 to 3, 3 to 5, and even into primary school, mostly focusing on kind of opportunities for early learning, safety and security in the home and in the school and in community, and responsive caregiving. We still don't have really, really strong work in health and nutrition, but that's where we're moving now as well. So there are four main pillars that kind of situate our work. One is the alignment of messages, knowledge, and interventions across the three main systems, lakay-lekol-legliz. So for example, if a parent is given a message about how to support children's early literacy through playful activities in the home, and they get that message through parent training, they get that same message when they're meeting with the teacher in the preschool, and then they get that same message when they go to church and they hear a sermon from the priest. So what we're trying to do is figure out, how do we align messages and how do we align interventions across the main settings and systems surrounding children? The second piece is that all of our interventions are developed iteratively with community members. And this is important to us. So just like Kathy was talking about kind of interventions developed with communities, our work also focuses on making sure that the interventions are developed by teachers or by parents or by parish leaders. We embed implementation science through all of our work. So we do a circle of plan, do, study, act, right? We develop something with parish leaders or with teachers. We implement it, we study it, and then we act on what we found. During the COVID-19 pandemic, we heard from a lot of mothers saying we need some way to connect with other mothers. We feel really kind of lost. Our social network is kind of broken right now. Can you help us? And so we did a review of the literature and found that there was some benefit to phone-based calling programs with mothers, mostly evidence from Bangladesh. And so we developed an intervention called Allo Mama, which is basically a once-a-week phone call to moms, just saying, how are you doing? Hello, mother, how are you doing? We did this for 3 months. We did a pre and a post with those mothers and a pre and a post with some mothers who were not part of the program. And we found that mothers who were part of the program were more stressed by the end of the calls. And so that's a learning that we had. And so we went back to the moms and said, hold on, what's going on? Why do you feel more stressed after getting all these calls? And they told us, well, it's nice to get the calls, but we need more. We need connection. We need resources. We feel like the calls are just kind of like building us up and then just letting us down. And so we realized that in order to kind of better support mothers and better support parents, we need to then connect them to more resources, provide them a social network. And so we figured out a way during the pandemic to bring moms together in a socially distanced, safe method so that they could actually rebuild those connections and connect them to resources within their community. And the last piece, as I mentioned, is play is kind of a central feature of especially the school and the home-based work that we do, but it's not something that we pull aside and talk about separately from the rest of the work that we do. We try to embed play and play-based methods through all of the work. So in a parent training, we don't talk to parents specifically about playing with their children. We give them ideas of how to incorporate play within the work that they're already doing with children or within the lessons that they're already trying to teach children. So over 4 years, we've worked in 6 of the 10 departments in Haiti, in about 14 parishes with about 282 schools and close to about 900 parents. And quickly, just to talk about kind of what this work actually looks like. At the school level, we're focused primarily on early social emotional development of children and early literacy development, right? Not rocket science. Everybody here is also kind of focused on some of that. And so in preschools, we have a scripted social emotional learning curriculum that teachers helped us design. And so that's been rolling out now for several years. And we have a scripted literacy curriculum for both preschool as well as grades 1 and 2. At the parish level in the church, we're focused a lot on distance learning, right? So there's continuous school closures in Haiti, even after the pandemic. Schools have closed for a month, 2 months, 3 months at different periods of time. And so we've tried to figure out how do we support learning for children when they're out of school. And so we have a comprehensive radio program that focuses on early literacy, early numeracy, early social emotional development, as well as parenting practices for parents. And we use the parish and community radio system to broadcast the programs to the different parishes. And we've also been integrating early childhood development and play-based messages within what the priests are doing in the church. So we mapped all 52 weeks of sermons that a priest can give on every Sunday and mapped child development messages to each of those sermons so that priests can talk about the religious component, but also how it affects child development. And then at the home, we're really focused on kind of the building up from Allo Mama. We now have a 10-session parent empowerment program that focuses a lot on kind of play-based methods in the home, but specifically around the nurturing care framework, focused on kind of safety and security, on nurturing care and responsive caregiving. Beyond kind of the implementation research that we've been doing to develop these different kind of interventions, we've also tried to understand what is the impact of each of these interventions. So we slowly study an intervention to see, is it feasible? Is it relevant? Does it make sense? And when we think we're at a point that it's having some kind of impact, we think of, okay, let's do an impact evaluation to see if it actually is impactful for children. So this is an impact evaluation for our school-based social emotional learning program in preschools. And what we see is kind of children in the treatment, which is green, and control group, which is red, start off at about the same point, and about 4.5 months later, we see kind of dramatic improvements with children who are part of the preschool social emotional learning program. Why this is exciting is because there isn't that much evidence about the efficacy of social emotional learning in humanitarian contexts. So this is one of the first studies that's actually showing that social emotional learning programming can be effective in emergency contexts, and we've replicated this. We first did it in the south of the country, and then we replicated it in different communities in the north of the country. We've done similar work to evaluate the literacy curriculum, which has also shown really large effects. But more importantly, in all of our programs, we've tried to understand why are we seeing these effects? Like, what is the mechanism that's actually maybe controlling some of this? And in most of the work we do with teachers, We have a coaching program for teachers. So teachers get a training and then they have a coach that visits them once a month. And we found that the quality of the coaching and the frequency of the coaching is strongly associated with the fidelity and quality with which teachers go through the program, and that affects kind of student outcomes. So trying to understand not just what works, but how or why it works as well. Then if we look at kind of parent empowerment, we're still in a stage where we haven't done an impact evaluation for it, but we've collected a lot of qualitative data, both pre and post this 10-week program with parents across the country. And what we've been doing is sentiment analysis. So we look at the kinds of words that parents are using to describe how they interact with their child. And if you look on the right here, the dark blue is words that might have a negative valence, and blue words are the ones that have a positive valence when they're talking about their children. And these two are for after the training. And what we're seeing is that the number of words and the kinds of words that parents are using to talk about how they interact with their children tends to be a lot less negatively valenced at the end of the training. So this gives us an indication. This does not show impact, but it gives us an indication that we're moving in the right direction and we're ready to now evaluate this and figure out how it works. And then at the community level, we're doing a lot of work to understand how distance learning might actually work and why it might or might not work. Haiti is a unique case where we don't have large smartphone and tablet distribution across the country. There's a lot of problems with electricity. There's a huge petrol shortage in the country. And what we found is during the pandemic in 2020, we were able to distribute hand crank radios to families, and the listenership was about at 70%. But then within those same communities, as we moved into school closures in 2022, the listenership dropped to 35%. We think this might be because during the pandemic, parents were also at home, and so they were able to monitor kind of children listening to the radio programs. When schools closed, some parents still had to go out to work, and so they were not able to be at home with their parents. And so this shows that even if you have a successful distance learning intervention, you need to keep understanding what's changing in it, because it can change even over 2 years based on kind of the context in a humanitarian emergency. And lastly, we've been doing a lot of work with parish priests and nuns, because they're a huge component of and very influential component in child development in these communities. And we found it really hard to change their behaviors. I'm not going to specify why. It's really hard to change their behaviors. But what we've realized is that we might actually need to move one step prior. So you can think of kind of pre-service training for teachers versus in-service training. Everything we were doing was in-service training for the priests and the nuns. What if we do pre-service training? What if we go to the seminarians and the seminaries where they're working before they actually enter their parishes and work to embed messages of early childhood development and play within their training right there? So that's what we're trying to do right now. And then finally, we've tried to look at what's the impact of all of this together? Like, how does this all work together? We've used the qualitative impact protocol. And one way to think about this is we hired a gentleman in Haiti who was a research associate who knew about us and knew about the work we were doing in the research practice partnership. And he hired research assistants who knew nothing about us. They just thought they were doing a needs assessment in the community. They went out and talked to parents and teachers and parish leaders. And those people, the participants, knew nothing about these research associates. They didn't know they were hired by us. So it's a double-blind qualitative protocol. And what we look at is, do parents and teachers talk about anything that has changed in how they work or treat children over the last year? And what do they attribute that change to? And do they attribute that to any messaging that they've received that we've been working on together? And we actually found pretty strong evidence, especially from parents and teachers, talking about the trainings that they'd received and how that had changed their behaviors with children. But we don't find kind of this networked alignment that we had been looking for. And that might be because if you are attending a one-day, amazing 10th anniversary pedal conference, it's memorable. But if you're getting a message from someone every other Sunday for 30 minutes, it might not be as memorable. So similarly for parents, a training where you're attending kind of 10 weeks of training with other parents is a memorable thing. And so you talk about it a lot more and you think it influences you a lot more. And so what we're trying to do is now think about how we use social network analysis within communities to analyze the networks that are being created through these interventions that we're doing. So finally, we have a lot of next steps. We are going to continue this work. We have a lot of further evaluations that we want to do. We also have a faculty member who's joining us who is an expert in micronutrient supplementation, who's going to help us boost the focus on nutrition and health for children. And overall, our takeaways are that these alternative systems exist and continue to exist in humanitarian emergencies and can be really well leveraged to support children's learning and development. But it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort to align those messages. And some of it, if we work through these systems, can be sustainable. We've seen, for example, in some parishes, the parish themselves have found parents to take up the parent training. So we're not needed any longer. They're going to continue sustaining that even without us. But overall, it's taking a lot of kind of time and effort to figure out how we embed this within the parish system so that it can be sustainable. So I'm going to end there. We're always open to any ideas, any collaborations, anybody else who thinks we should be thinking about something else. Happy to talk about it further. But thank you for your time today. And I hope I have been able to kind of give some answer to Bo's question of what if we start to kind of align messages on child development and play across the different settings and systems that surround children. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So,
Do you need a... Yes, it's very hot in here.
sure. Yeah.
So, thank you so much for your talk. And I think there's a lot of food for thought, not just in situations of adversity, but also for all of us as researchers here in the UK too. Is there any questions from anyone? Who's got the mic? We have one at the front.
Hi, it's Kathy Silva again, and thank you so much for giving me another question. It was brilliant, but I want to ask you about the scripted lessons because, of course, in this context, we're not always so keen. But do any of your parents or workers leap away from the script and get original about it? Because once they learn the principles in the script, it should be possible for them to be more creative. And we're all here at a play conference.
Yeah. So we don't see the script as a prescription of needing to do it word for word. We actually, in working with teachers, right, in developing these, teachers are saying we would like scripts for these lessons, right, scripts of what to do in the morning meetings. And when we did a feasibility test in 5 schools, we had the script. And then at the end of it, teachers came up to us and we were doing a lot of focus groups with them. And they said, can we move this around? And can we add this song here because it might be more relevant for children? And so we did that. And now teachers are adapting it further in their classrooms. So the script serves as a starting point for teachers. And teachers in these contexts are fairly taxed with needing to come up with new things to do with their children. And so providing them a script is a starting point for them to start thinking about how to kind of embed social emotional learning within their classrooms. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sabila. I work for UNICEF. Hi, thank you. I have 2 questions for you that was really interesting. The first was, how did you get the priest community on board to incorporate ECD into the sermons? That was a really interesting idea. And my second question was about parents. Have you faced any particular barriers in terms of appetite or demand or adoption from incorporating more play? How has that worked? And was there any kind of gender difference in that? Thank you.
Yeah. So the best way that we found is because the Catholic Church is so hierarchical, is if you get the bishop, it kind of filters down through the church. So we have a very, very friendly bishop who we work with, who has helped us kind of map the work to the sermons, but then also has given us access to the seminarians. And in other dioceses of Haiti, we haven't been able to find that yet. So I think partly it is really relationship building with the leaders in the church. Um, in terms of kind of different parent kind of uh, participation, it's been really hard to get fathers to participate. So we've actually worked with a group of fathers to take the parent training and make it more applicable to fathers, both in terms of logistics and in terms of content. So we've actually rolled out a fathers empowerment program that's just focused on fathers. So that's what we're doing right now. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Gil. I'm from the University of York. Very, very impressive presentation, and I'm really pleased to see the dynamics of all of the different areas of the model. I wanted to ask about your assumptions or hypothesis of connectedness because we could see very distinct focus projects. And if you're talking about connections and networks, what are some of your assumptions about how that might come out for a particular parent, for example, who's receiving one or two or three separate projects independently?
Yeah.
What are the ways you're thinking about connectedness within that kind of context?
Yeah. So I think one of our assumptions is saturation. So that if you saturate the entire system around children with the same messages, that some of those messages will get to the adults that are closest to the child. So instead of thinking of just an intervention in a school where a preschool teacher might be working with the child, but then the child goes home and there's a different interaction with a parent or a caregiver, what we're trying to do is saturate the system. So that's one assumption. The second is alignment, right? So we hope, or our assumption is, and we don't have proof for this, is that if you can align messages and interventions across the system. So for example, if the parish priest talks about the caregiving intervention and then the teacher also talks about it, there might be more incentive for parents to participate in that intervention. So it's terms of alignment across the different settings surrounding children. So I think those are kind of our two main assumptions that we're making. We don't have empirical proof for either saturation or alignment just yet. Yes. Yes. Yeah. And that's the challenge, right? So if you look at the data we presented from the QUIP, what we see is the explicit pieces coming out. We don't see the implicit connections coming out. So if anyone here has ideas of how we should be doing kind of systems level, like studying the system and understanding the implicit kind of connections there, please, like we would love to kind of talk more about that. So thank you.
Think we can take one more.
Thanks. Amanda McIntyre from the For Baby's Sake Trust. That was absolutely fascinating. It would be interesting to hear a bit more about which messages land most easily and which are more difficult to land. And particularly if you could answer that question with a sort of trauma-informed lens, because I'm sure that the impact of experience of trauma will be complicating
Yeah.
the work that you're doing. So how do you overcome the barriers and through a trauma-informed approach?
Yeah. So the messages that have landed most strongly with both parents and with teachers is about the importance of kind of children's development of the brain during the first, like the early time of their life, and how important their relationship is to the child. We actually, one of the things that we've had to kind of incorporate in the training is, don't worry if you haven't been doing this so far. There's still opportunities for you to support your child, because parents fear that I haven't been doing this for the last like 4 or 5 years. What's going to happen now? Is there a way to kind of change it? So that message about kind of children's development, like brain development, has been really, really influential. With kind of the permission of the Center for the Developing Child at Harvard, we took their videos on brain development and reanimated them with artists in Haiti and put them into Haitian Creole, and that goes out to all parents right now. So we're trying to kind of get that message across. The other message that has been really, really influential is about corporal punishment. So it is quite common in Haiti, And so the message on kind of the importance of like corporal punishment not necessarily being supportive of child development and its impact on child development has been really influential. So a lot of what we see in the change in behavior is around kind of the stoppage of corporal punishment in the home. And the last message is around nutrition. And that's where we're really trying to kind of pivot our work. Parents kind of talking about, we have an entire video called Eat the Rainbow. It has nothing to do with Skittles, uh, but talking about like the range of food that children should be eating, and how do we kind of source those foods locally. So we're going to be trying something. I'm not going to talk about it yet because it's still in the early stages of figuring out whether this could work, but it might involve goats. And we're going to trial that with communities to see whether we can start doing more micronutrient supplementation. In terms of trauma-informed work, we tend to do a lot more reflective work with the adults than with the children. So especially with teachers, we focus a lot more on teacher well-being and what teachers have been through and how that affects their relationship with children. And similarly with parents, we do a lot more reflective work around what have you been through and how that affects your relationship with your child. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm afraid we don't have time for any more questions, but it was so lovely to hear you talk today, and thank you for taking the time to answer our questions. I'm going to pass over then to have we got another speaker? In 5 minutes' time. So we have a quick comfort break. Yeah. Thank you.